So this is the first video for the AI programming class. The first thing we're going to do is look at finite state machines and creating waypoint systems. So we're going to do a very rudimentary basic AI system. So let's start off by just creating a new folder inside of our assets folder, just calling that lesson 1. And then within this lesson 1 folder, we're going to create another folder called scripts. And what we're going to need is some sort of controller, like sort of a character. So let's say we're making a robot game. So I'm going to right-click, create a C# script, and I'm going to call it robot controller. And let's go ahead and open that up. Now, what we'll need is a reference to a bullet object. So we'll do public game object bullet. We'll just do like a laser or something. Laser. And then let's say our robot has like sort of a spinning Gatling gun. So we'll do this private transform. Spinning gun. This is also loaded. Now I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this, and I'm going to create a empty game object. I'm going to call it laser spawn point. The next thing I need to do is I need to save off whatever our current speed is, and then the target speed of wherever our robot is going to go. So let's say we're following a waypoint system, and then we need a speed of how quickly it's going to rotate. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and just type those out really quick. And let's go ahead and duplicate this 2 more times. And this is how fast our Gatling gun is going to spin. So Gatling gun speed. And then we need our forward speed, how fast this guy's going to move forward. And then let's duplicate this again, and then we'll do a backward speed. And I'm not exactly sure how fast it's going to move, so because it's based on the size of our character. So we can enter these in now, and then make them serialized fields so that we can adjust them later. So let's go ahead and copy this. Paste it here. So if you're not familiar with serialized fields, let's go ahead and save this off. If we go back in our scene, what we can do now is just create an empty game object that's going to represent our tank and or our robot rather. And we'll go ahead and add that robot controller. And notice because I made those private elements serialized fields, you can see they appear here. All right, so back in our script, we need to set up some variables for how fast we want those lasers to shoot. So laser shoot rate. And then we want to record the elapsed time between each shot so that it's not just a constant stream. We actually have we have it set up so that we want a distance or sort of a time-based thing. So like every 1 second he fires off another shot when you're in range. Okay, so let's go ahead and set up our rotation speed in here. So let's go ahead and do rotation speed, and again equals, let's do 100. And then what we want to do is right off the bat, we want to get the object that's attached to this cube. So let's go ahead and duplicate this. And we're going to go ahead and create just a simple, and we'll actually model the robot out. But for now, it's kind of nice just to use primitives for testing purposes. So this is sort of our Gatling gun. Its name is Gatling gun. And then attached to this Gatling gun, I'm going to right click. I'm going to create a empty grading object. Now I'm going to grab this Gatling gun and make it a child of this cube, which I'm going to name robot. So the Gatling gun is a child of the robot, and then this empty game object, which we'll call it laser fire point. We'll move that forward for a second. I'll move it. We want to just make sure, I want to have it fire from the z-axis. So let's go ahead and just select this and move it over to the side here. Because this really is the front of our object. And then our laser point should be out here because we're going to add a collider to it and we don't want it to hit our robot. Okay, so remember we made this Gatling gun up here. So what we can say is our Gatling gun equals, and what we want to do is get the child, right, of this object that the script is attached to. So what we're going to say is this game object dot transform dot get child, and inside of here we're going to say 0. So that's what's equaling this little guy here. So we're actually getting a reference we're storing in Gatling gun, and that's 0. And what we want to get is the transform of this. Now, what I'd like to do next is inside of my laser spawn point, I actually want to get a reference to this laser fire point here. So what I can do is pretty much the same thing. I can just say laser point equals Gatling gun, and then the same thing, dot get the child of the Gatling gun, which is also 0 because it's the 0 element of that Gatling gun, dot transform. Alright, so what I want to do in update, or outside of update, is I actually want to create a method that whenever I click my left mouse button, it fires, right? So let's go ahead and create that. Let's call it void fire weapon. And inside of here, we want to check if our left mouse button is pressed. So we say if input get mouse button down, and the left mouse button is stored at 0. Now we want to, like I said, we sort of want it to recharge, right? And that's why we created this elapsed time variable here, which is set to 1. And what we're going to say is, inside of this, we want to say if our elapsed time is greater than or equal to shoot rate. Now, if you look up here, we haven't created any sort of increment or timer. Like we haven't created anything to adjust the elapsed time, and I'll show you how to do it in a second. But if our elapsed time is greater than shoot rate is also 1, right? So what we want to do is we actually want to just go ahead and 0 this out. We don't want to set that to 1. And we want to increment the elapsed time so that elapsed time keeps adding until it gets to 1, and then we set it to 0 again. So outside of this if statement, once I press the left mouse button, I want to go ahead and start incrementing elapsed time. So one way of sort of doing that is to create a timer to add to elapsed time. And the easy way to do that is just say elapsed time plus equals time.delta time, which is the time between frames. So now every time we press the left mouse button, it's going to go all the way up. Elapsed time is going to keep going up, and it's not going to stop until it's actually just going to keep going. We haven't done anything. So what I want to say is if our elapsed time is greater than or equal to shoot rate, which is 1, let's set this back to 0. So 0.0f. So we're resetting our timer every time we press, we shoot. Now the next thing we want to do is instantiate our laser. So we're going to do instantiate. And then the location that we, this takes essentially 3 parameters. You can see it does the, whatever the object is we want to do, the position, and then the rotation. So what we want to do is we have this game object, which is our laser itself. So inside here, I'm just going to say laser, laser.transform, or laser.position. So whatever the position of our laser is. Or I'm sorry, not our laser. We want to instantiate our laser at our laser fire point, which is right here. So this is where we want our lasers to spawn from. Dot position. There we go. And then the next thing we need is the rotation. So let's put this on a new line. So we do the same thing. Laser, spawn point, dot rotation. Now, we're not calling this anywhere, right? So what I'm going to do is just grab this fire weapon, and I'm going to have it check every frame whether or not we're interacting or pressing our left mouse button. So we need to create a laser in our scene, and we need to set up all the, well, we don't necessarily need to set these up because we've done that here. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So if we look at our robot, you can see we have laser none for our game object. So what I'm going to do is inside of this assets folder here, I'm going to create another folder. I'm going to call it prefabs. And let's go ahead and right click. And I'm going to create a sphere object. And let's see, scale this down. And I'm just going to create sort of like a mini laser or something. I'm going to remove this collider for a second because we don't have any interaction with it yet. And I'm going to reset this. Oops. I just want to reset the position for a second. And I'm going to just drag this into here. Because in our code, let's go ahead and delete this. We have it set to the position of this and the fire rate. Okay. And I might have to play with it when I actually add it because that's pretty huge. But anyway, the size of this here. So I'm going to grab this, drop it in here, and I'm going to press play. And what you can see is a null reference exception, which is good to get these errors. Let's see what the problem is. So it says here, transform child out of bounds. Let's double click that. So it says laser spawn point get child transform. And actually, I think the reason for that is because I have my script on the Gatling gun, and so it's going down one, and then it's going down another one, and it doesn't have anything. So I'm going to actually remove. Copy this component, and I'm going to remove this component. I'm going to go up here, and I have 2 of these scripts. So now it shouldn't give us the error. Let's see if it clears it out. Yeah, it cleared it out. Okay, so now when I press the left mouse button, it doesn't look like instantiating yet. Let's take a look at why. And the reason for that was my elapsed time was too short. So you can see my shoot rate, or it was too long. So I had my shoot rate set to 0.5. So it takes forever to shoot the bullet. So say we set this to 0.3, and I save it. You can see here when I press play, we get a much quicker shoot rate. So you can see here we're at 0.1. Let me shoot one off. There's another one. So we have all these sphere colliders. Now when we can add force or rigid body to it, it'll give us a little bit quicker results.